Well, hello there. Welcome, everybody. This is Melissa Indot, and I don't know, Andrew Tai. He's the creator and the founder of this Rejuvenate platform and series. This is edition 4, and he has entrusted me to moderate this session for you today. We talk about cultivating an inclusive community with fearless curiosity. And here today, I am joined by incredible women who are part of the Being Curious and Fearless Club on Clubhouse that I founded. I founded it, but really it cannot be what it is today without these incredible women. I've got Desiree, I've got Carly, and I've got Patricia, and we're here today to show you what it is that we're passionate about in terms of cultivating an inclusive community with fearless curiosity. So the first thing I want to say is thank you to each of you, Desiree, Carly, and Patty, for being here today. And I guess what I'll do is I'll lean into maybe giving you some space to introduce yourselves to everybody and tell us what it is that you have fearless curiosity about. And what I mean by that is, what drives your passion? What are you most passionate about? What are you fearlessly curious about learning more about and bringing out into the world in terms of creating awareness? So I'm going to start with Patty. Over to you, Patty.
So thank you as always for getting us off to a great start. And thank you, of course, to the organizers, to Andrew and everybody in the Rejuvenate community. I'm Patricia Rivera. My students call me Coach Patty, and I run a nonprofit called the Heart at Play Foundation. So we're also known as THB. And what THB does is we provide services, specifically gratis or free movement therapy for persons with special needs, including neurodiverse individuals, people on the autism spectrum disorder. So prior to getting into disability advocacy work, I have been a dancer competing abroad, choreographing for commercial and personal events. And in the last 10 years, movement has taken on a new meaning for me, right? As apart from being a tool for sharing joy, it's become a bridge to hope, a bridge to healing, and a movement I find that we all share. It's a mission that we all share, and now we get to use this craft to empower persons with special needs. And I've become so fortunate to meet these inspiring women. I'm sharing the screen with Desiree and Carly, and of course, Melissa, who have their respective contributions to empowering the neurodivergent community. So that's me, and I'm eager to explore with everybody. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for everything that you are doing for your communities, for creating awareness and advocacy, and also for all the ways that you contribute to the Being Curious Club, which we'll speak more to a little bit later. Now, I'm excited to introduce to all of you Carly, if you would share with everybody what you are fearlessly curious about, what it is that you are most driven and fueled about learning more about and spreading awareness on. Over to you, Carly.
Thank you. I'm Carly Considine. I am in England, and I am an autism advocate. I am an autistic adult, and I have children with autism, and I have a keen passion to answer questions from an autistic perspective to families to help them understand their children. I have a desire to seek knowledge and learn more and more every day and foster creativity within learning. And yeah. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Carly. I know that in the short time that I've got to know you on the platform, on the Clubhouse platform, I'm always learning from you. So I'm really looking forward to you sharing more to everybody here today. And of course, last but not least, Desiree, over to you to share with everybody what you're fearlessly curious about, what you are so driven, what you are called to learn more about and spread awareness on in your communities and beyond. Over to you.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Rejuvenate, for this platform. It's amazing. Well, I'm Desiree Kaur. I live here in Malaysia, born and bred, 100% Malaysian, and I'm going to get right to it. I'm a mom to a 6-year-old boy on the autism spectrum. My journey with him began in the neurodiverse world began about 4 years ago. And so one of the main things that I found was a challenge then was information that was applicable to me and my son on our journey, because as we know it, as most people know, autism is a spectrum, which means no two autistic individuals will ever be alike. Therefore, it prompted me to start my own initiative, which is called Project Hans. And so what I'm doing right now is I run a website called Project Hans, projecthans.com, and it has information lists of resources here in Malaysia, so where parents can go to get their children diagnosed, access therapy, and so on and so forth. And it also has a collection of articles by anyone who's touched by neurodiversity. So that's something, and I'm passionate about writing. I have a background in PR and communications, but writing's always been my true passion and calling. And so I actually started writing about my experience on a parenting portal called matchi.com, which I still contribute to. And now I'm taking all that passion for writing and pouring that into Project Hans. And it's still a work in progress. So we'll see where it leads me and the community. And as we say on Clubhouse, I am done speaking for now. Over to you, Melissa.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Desiree, and also for all the ways that you're spreading awareness and everything that you're fearlessly curious about. So I'll touch on a little bit about how I met these three incredible women. On Clubhouse, I had the opportunity to start a club, and I called it Being Curious and Fearless. And I suppose what I'm most passionate about is creating safe spaces. I'm going to say that again. I don't suppose. I know. Deep in my heart, what I am driven to do is create safe spaces for people to come together, to listen, and lean in, and learn the diversity of human experiences through the lens of fearless curiosity. And that probably comes from an experience, my whole experience in my life of always feeling like I never fit in. And so I wanted to create a safe space for everybody to come in, no matter how weird or normal or abnormal, whatever it is that you think you are, or maybe society has said that you are, or is expecting of you that you feel that you're always having to conform to. I wanted us to create a space where I could feel safe in, for people to leave whatever their, I would say, qualifications, professional certifications. And again, I'm not minimizing any of those things, but really to come in as who you are before anything. Who you are, that child within you, to show up exactly as who you are, to share what your lived experience is. And so that was the birth of the community that's now known as BCF, we call it that for short. And the inclusivity is very, very important to me, because I have learned that the more that I listen to other people and learn about their experiences in life, that I also learn about myself. So not only do I find things that I can relate to in others, but actually often it's the things that I can't relate to that provide me an opportunity to expand my awareness. And also it gives me the opportunity to learn how to be an ally, how to support other people in their journey, in their mission and their message. Even, and this is a far reach now, everybody, listening beyond the need to understand, listening to actually accept each other, and ask yourself, is there a way that I can support them that doesn't compromise who I am, but still support who they are? So I'm so grateful for this space with all of you. And I know that we've all been really nervous because we're so used to hanging out together in these clubhouse rooms and serving and holding these spaces for other people and not seeing each other. But today we actually get to see each other. And I would love for us just to sort of have an open discussion. So maybe I'll go to the why. Why is cultivating an inclusive community important to you? So I'm not going to direct this to anyone in particular. That is the prompt, but ultimately, whatever's showing up for you right now, just feel free to unmute and share, and let's just talk. Let's have a chat among friends as we always do. So I'll ask again, why do you think it's important for the health and the well-being of humanity, of human race, right? Of humanity. In fact, I would say all sentient beings. Inclusivity goes beyond even us as humans. It goes to the way that we treat the planet, right? Do you think that's important? Why is it important to you to create that? So I'm going to pause my mic right now and give you a couple of moments to rest in that prompt.
So for me, my why for inclusion is it's simple, really. I just want to make the world a better place for my son and all the children of the future. And with my son's neurodiverse diagnosis, to me, it didn't matter. He's always my son first, and it just sparked the fire in me to learn, right? And to just constantly keep learning and building community, because for me inclusion is very important, because the reality of life is such, I'm not going to live forever. I'm doing this so that my son will have his community when he grows up, to do whatever he feels called to do. And here's the other thing about inclusion that I shared with Melissa this morning, is that inclusion should not be an effort. It should be effortless. It should just be inclusion. That's it, done, tick. Inclusion for all. And if we talk about education, it goes back to what UNICEF says, that no child should be left behind. And I know Patty has some very strong views on this as well. So I'm going to mute for now and open it up to anyone else.
Well, coming from my background, I'm unlike my co-moderators and co-guests here. I am not yet a mother. Most people wonder how I got involved, and they think that maybe I had a sibling or a cousin, but really the bridge was my art, my movement craft. And the first time we shared dance with differently abled students who were from indigent communities at that. So not only were they disadvantaged, maybe in terms of their physiology, right, or developmental needs, but also economically, they couldn't have access to the support systems needed. I saw how transformative dance was. The few seconds of sheer joy in their eyes, and the hope it kindled in their parents' eyes to see that there's more waiting for their children, right? How could I not feel invested? How could I not feel inspired? And I realized there's no such thing as other people's children. There's no such thing as another person's sibling, another person's daughter. It may not have been me or someone I know, but it might be. I might end up having somebody in my lineage, right? And even so, okay, across the board, it should be inevitable that we make accommodations to make every person feel taken care of. I think that my why, simply put, is because it's a reflection of our empathy. It's as humane as it can get. Melissa was talking about her intention. She'd always felt that there are times she didn't necessarily feel welcomed. And by transferring that emotion, she got to create this welcoming environment for whoever else. And I think that resonates with me. Once you have that compassion, once you see a pain point, as human beings, we have this built-in maternal instinct to help alleviate and to help resolve that situation. So I think, regardless of who it may be, a relative or not, a stranger or not, people deserve to feel safe in society. And yeah, that's my why. And I assume that it'll continue to evolve as the mission progresses. So, pausing my mic.
I think my why is because no child should feel left out, no child should feel lonely and sad, because we've experienced that ourselves. The children who don't get invited to parties, the children who don't ask to be played with in the playground. And I think that schools need to adopt this way of thinking, of finding other strategies to use if these children are left alone, i.e. board games with them in school, i.e. finding other things for them to do, because you can't make children play with them, but you can find other ways so that they don't feel excluded and lonely and just standing on the side watching everybody play because they're not involved. So I think it's just adopting a different strategy of how to involve these children.
Thank you so much, Carly. Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, Desiree. I hear about accommodation. I hear about creating safe spaces. And I hear in particular, all three of you are very passionate about serving, I should say, children. The leaders, often we talk about that they are the leaders of tomorrow. No, actually, they're the leaders now. They're already the leaders. And what we want to be doing, right, the mission, the collective mission is to hold the space for them to lead now. We hold the space. We don't tell them what to do. We see how these strategies, these systems that have been created, in a way, are homogenizing us. They're making us, they're being created on the basis that we're all the same. But we know we're not all the same. Look at this beautiful screen, everybody who's watching. There is beauty, individual beauty in each of us. And that's what makes this picture you see stunning. That's what makes the conversation that we weave together rich, with depth, with breadth, with meaning, with intention, with growth, and with intelligence, because it's about a co-creation. And I'm hearing more than anything, it's about creating a world where we listen. We listen. We lead through listening. Carly, what you said just now, it made I got goosebumps, right? You said talking about children feeling left out because they need to fit in a certain way. But actually what we want to do is we want to recognize and celebrate the differences and then figure out as the adults, how do we then now, I don't want to say empower, how do we now create a system that serves the need of the child? Of each child. And I know a lot of systems and maybe a lot of authorities out there may say, oh, well, it's going to be very costly. Can you imagine if we had to create a system for each individual? Well, the thing is, we don't know unless we try. And that is what we need to do when we want to instill change for a better world. It is about working together, or I'm going to say playing together, and it is about listening first. So we've talked about education, children and education. I'd like to talk more a little bit about how does this look like at home? Meaning, how do we reflect on the way that we walk this world, how we are inclusive in our conversations, in the spaces that we choose to populate, and maybe even in the workplace. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pause my microphone, and whoever feels called to share something, please, please, please unmute your mic. This is Melissa, and I'm complete, as I say on Clubhouse.
Okay, I shall go first. I just want a chance to respond to what you said earlier. You said, Melissa, hold space for them to lead now. And that's exactly what I think parenting is all about. Because when you talk about at home, what we're doing at home, because we as parents, we model to all children. Yes, I know a lot of people will tell me, oh, kids on the spectrum have trouble with imitation. Yes, they do. Some of them do, but that does not mean they do not understand. So what we say around the house, what we say to each other, and what we say to ourselves is very important. Mindset, modeling what we want the world to feel like to our children. And in my case, I'm very particular about sharing my emotions and emotions in general with my child. I mean, I've attended many courses, which is usually always child-led approaches. So we go based on play, right? Because that's the best way to engage a child. Even adults, if you really think about it, if I told you it's a session that's going to be so fun, you would rather go for it than if I told you you have to do 10 pages of homework, right? So, so play-based approaches, taking the lead from the child. So that's what I do at home. That's what my family, that's what we do at home. Started with me, and then my husband, and then now my parents, my son's grandparents also take the lead from him. And the minute we do that, you see the relationship, you see the joy. I mean, I don't have to be there. I can hear them, the laughing, the playing, So I think that's the first step. When we are raising leaders of tomorrow, we have to take the lead from them now. Having said that, of course, boundaries are important. If your child wants to play with a knife, that's a boundary you want to set. So going to that, I would say, at home, model what we want. We want our children to learn from us, about us and about the world. I think that's very important. Yeah, I can go on. So I'm going to mute for now.
I think the other important thing is allowing them to have a voice, to be equal, and for them to express how they feel about situations and how they are navigating the world and this situation. And there's only very few things that I don't share with my children, because they need to know about the real world as well as, you know, you can't hide what the real world is. They need to know that money doesn't grow on trees. They need to know that people have to work hard for their money. They need to know everything like that. And I think it's very important for them to know how much things cost, how much it costs to feed them, etc., so that they feel involved in the household things and they have a voice and they're learning at the same time.
So on my end, I am not a parent, as I mentioned a while ago, but what I see is how I can influence this from an educator or a support provider's perspective, and as an individual, you know, somebody in this generation. So first off, as a support provider, we want to encourage parents, you know, to emulate the values that Carly and Desiree so lovingly model, which is the idea that strengths are highly individualized. You know, people might not be interested in maths, might not be interested in language, but they might have a preference to music, to baking, to crafts, to movement. So we want to encourage them to explore other skills, other interests, okay? Because the academics is not the only strength that they can develop on, right? And once you acknowledge the plurality of ways a child can excel, okay, we can build on that, and they can feel the comfort, you know, the acceptance, and I will use the term, you know, a sense of fulfillment and empowerment, because they get to recognize that my interest is worthy of emulation. My interest, you know, deems me contributing, thriving member of society. So that's what we encourage the parents, right? There's no one way to manifest progress. Second, as an individual advocate at home, I suppose, or yes, that extends to my peers as well, to immediate community members. I do my best to try and speak up, you know, when I encounter certain people who aren't so versed in what we call more inclusive terminology, you know, euphemistic language that will be more welcoming to persons with exceptionality. So let's say in the Philippines, where I am based, there's a lot of terminology in the Filipino vernacular that is still quite derogatory, and you know, it's blended into humor. It's blended into Filipino humor. And of course, this is something that we've inherited from generations before that didn't know enough about inclusion at the time. So the onus, the responsibility is also on me as somebody who is more aware to speak up, okay? Not just for the sake of correcting them, okay, or for the sake of, you know, performative allyship, but it's really at that genuine level of, you know, if I can impart this grain of info to you, okay, then you can do the same the next time you encounter somebody, right? And, you know, bit by bit, like even on that personal level with a single conversation, we can make homes more safe for everyone. So that's me.
I also think it's important to show interest in their interests and listen to them talk about their interests. For example, my oldest is obsessed with BTS. So I'll find reels and things for her and send it to her, yeah? And I'll send her reels that I've seen on Instagram, and we'll have a little laugh about it if it is funny. And it's just that communication between the two of us about her interests and having a giggle about the silly reams that are being done. And I think it's really important.
Wow, so much there already. Carly, Desiree, Patricia, thank you. I'm not even going to attempt to summarize that, but what I am going to pick on, what I'm going to highlight on are a couple of words that really grabbed. Now, I'm a feels person. You know, I get goosebumps or I feel my heart crack open. I feel like I feel like I'm going to burst into tears, and that's always a really good sign for me. So keeping it together, I heard involvement. Involve your children. And so I'm going to extend that because I know the three of you are in particular focused to children. But if we're talking about involving, oh no, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. If we're talking about involving our children, then we want to be able to extend that into involving everybody. So that also means our engagement with adults. And as human beings, we need to connect. because through connection, that's where we thrive, right? Now, in order to connect with each other, we want to hold space for each other's voice, I heard Kylie say. And just to expand on that, voice doesn't necessarily have to be spoken language. It can also be tuning into the nuance of someone's expression, however that expression might be. So someone might say something, or someone might make a and being in tune to the vibration of that tonality in what it suggests. The face might go, but the sound might be, And so tuning into that is so, so important. And thank you for each of you for bringing that to light. So being present, I'm going to expand, I'm going to just add a little bit my piece, which is being present, involving each other, connecting, educating. So when we talk about allyship, when you do know better, and this is a very famous phrase, when you know better, you do better, right? So when you know better and when you witness someone who maybe on first judgment isn't doing better, we need to lean into that. I'm going to speak for myself. I say to myself, I need to lean into that compassion. I need to say to myself, once upon a time, that person was me. I didn't know better. I can see now, because I know better, that I can do better, and maybe I can support that person to know better so they too can be better, do better. And so that piece of awareness, becoming more aware, actually first of ourselves, and I think, Desiree, you did allude to that earlier. The more aware we become about how we speak, first to ourselves, then to each other, our children, our friends, our family, which is always a contention part, right? Because let's face it, folks, we don't choose our family. They're probably our greatest teachers. But that awareness piece, and then learning how to communicate what it is that who we want to be or who we are to the other person in a way that creates impact for growth together. Because, you know, when we have to lean into a strenuous conversation, let's say, you're leaning into supporting that person in growth, but you're also growing at the same time. And I know personally, I've experienced that. A lot of really sort of sensitive, I would even say treacherous ground in some rooms in Clubhouse where I've had to lean into difficult conversations. I use that word difficult when I didn't want to, but let's face it, sometimes they are. And I think that's where the compassion piece, the remembering that you were once that person, and the more to do better, we need to know better. And how can we be the advocate for that? First through our awareness, and then advocate that to support allyship. So I'm going to need to take a few breaths, because that was a lot right there. I'm going to open the floor again. We've probably got about another 15, 20 minutes to go in this session. I do just want to direct you ladies to the conversation in the workplace in terms of diversity. And I know that the three of you, have a keen, passionate interest in neurodiversity, in particular in special needs. But I would like us to maybe see if we can extend this in terms of inclusion and diversity beyond neurodiversity, just for this segment. So whether that's gender, sexuality, race, culture, whatever that might be, these are tender waters we're walking. But this, folks who are watching, you're getting a sense of what the Being Curious and Fearless community and club is all about. We're not about just talking about the things that make us feel good and safe. Yes, that's important. We celebrate each other. But it's also about expanding our own awareness. It's really about learning more about how much better we can be, and giving ourselves the grace and the time to reprogram maybe the way we think. Because when we feel uncomfortable, it's because it's challenging an experience. It's challenging the way we think. And we can expect people to just get it immediately, and then we'll end up getting disappointed and hurt, because we need to remember time. It takes time. So I'm going to pause my mic, and I'm going to open the floor up to Desiree, Carly, Patricia, over to you, however you'd like to just take this conversation.
I think it's about opening your mind and developing your culture to be more inclusive and more supportive, and being more open-minded, and share your space.
So for me, diversity and inclusion is something that has always, even before I was a mother, it means a lot to me. Living in Malaysia, we're a hot pot of cultures, races, religions. I myself am mixed race. So it's always been very important to me to always see the person first. No matter what, and that's how I was raised. That's how my parents raised me. That you are first and foremost a person, right? Doesn't matter if what race or religion you are, and that is how I hope to raise my son, because we are also, my husband and I, we also have mixed marriage, different religions, but we are raising our son. And so that's really it. And like I said, inclusion should be effortless. And for me, because I've had the privilege of growing up in such a multicultural family, it's not an effort for me. It's just our way of life. And I believe it, and I'm going to use that S word again, Melissa, it should be effortless everywhere, whether it's in schools. And if we talk about schools and inclusive education, it should be everyone, every child, no child should be left behind. So in fact, in Malaysia, when we introduced the zero reject policy a couple of ministers ago, it was very controversial. But I think a lot of people did not understand that he was coming from a place where every child, regardless who your parents are, which country you're from, whatever your abilities, has the fundamental right to go to school. And the school then has to make the accommodations for the child, right? And when it comes to the workplace, I see a lot of workplaces striving towards diversity and inclusion, even with neurodiverse or people with disabilities. There are steps being taken, but at the same time, my hope and my wish is that we match the skills of the person, and not make an assumption that just because, for example, someone is autistic, therefore their role is only in the kitchen, or their role is only baking. I truly believe, yes, there are many people who bake very well, or do kitchen work very well. But I think it's very important, if we're talking about inclusion, we look at the person first. We look at their skills first, and then we match them to jobs that they can do. Right. In fact, there was a study in the UK, I believe, that they start job matching at the age of 14. So when you start honing those skills from the age of 14 in schools, helping them learn the skills that they need, there is a higher success rate of them being employed, and long-term employment. I can't remember the name of the journal that I read it in, but yeah, there is research to back it up, that we, matching the skills to the person and then the job. Yeah, so I can go on, so I'm going to mute.
Right. In our community here in our locale, I'm aware that there are institutions, also nonprofits, right, who operate at the capacity of providing training, specifically technical or vocational training for individuals who have learning exceptionalities. But to Desiree's point, right, just wanted to springboard off that, like at the moment, where the Filipino landscape is, right, from what I know, is many neurodivergent individuals, specifically those that might be pre-verbal or non-verbal, they people do seem to see a match, a kind of way to optimize their tendency to stick to routine, for instance, which kind of primes them for very routine based kind of activities at work, right? So a lot of other nonprofits, for example, they operate via social enterprises. Let's say a nonprofit has a cafe built in that does employ persons with different abilities, right? And so that's one aspect of it. But I also understand that, let's say, persons on the lower support level needs, so people, I'm going to use this term very intentionally and only to describe a matter of fact, people who are able to do higher thinking tasks, people who are higher functioning. And again, I state that as a matter of fact, technical definition, they are able to acclimatize, they are assimilated into, say, more corporate kind of positions. So I acknowledge both are options, but again, it goes back to the individuality, right? As Desiree mentioned, case to case basis. So we can't assume inclusion will look like one thing for everyone. So I think it's also important to recognize that the people trying to manifest to accommodate inclusive practices are also part of an evolving process. So, they're learning as they go just as much as the next person. So I guess one thing to uplift here is I remember a professor once said it. Intelligence is knowing what to do when you don't know what to do, or when you're not sure what to do. So even the people who are planning these practices, okay, and they're unsure if it's inclusive, right? So they should consult. Consult with who? The experts on this, which would be people like Carly, who is a self advocate, an autistic adult. Other experts, deemed experts, are, of course, the parents, first person care providers. So, on the perspective of somebody who offers support, there's always that co solutioning, always having to consult so that it's consistent with what is actually being experienced. So, yeah, I think that's what I wanted to uplift. Thank you.
I think the other thing with employers is the opening your mind, because the analogy that they use is that we see the needle before we see the haystack. So we see very finer details that neurotypicals don't tend to notice. And I think that that's a really great asset, because we do find the small details and expand it, and we think outside the box. We see the bigger picture rather than and I think that it's about opening the mind and seeing what we can achieve as autistic adults. We can achieve great things. I know doctors, I know scientists, actually I know them in person, and they are both autistic, and other people I know, and their mind is just brilliant. And it's just opening your mind and not seeing what we can achieve as people. Yeah.
Just echoing both Patricia and Carly, I think, where the workplace is concerned and making the accommodations for everyone to be able to work as equals, it's very important to engage the community, right? To find out from the community themselves the needs and the accommodations needed, just so that every individual can thrive at the workplace. I just wanted to add that bit.
Thank you. And I think folks here who are watching can see just how passionate this panel is about diversity and inclusion, and how to approach it. It's from the get-go. And the important piece that I'm hearing more and more is that it is an evolution, right? Rome wasn't built overnight. And so I think that's going to be a very important piece for all parties involved. It's knowing that it's an evolution, that compassion piece is a big thing. And if you're getting people in to consult, then the diversity needs to be apparent in your consulting team. So I, for one, and I'm going to say it, I'm all for qualifications, certifications. I have high respect for anybody who can dedicate that much time and also has the financial resources in many ways to be able to commit to this. But what BCF, and I'm going to go back to that, the Being Curious and Fearless Club that we are all members of from Clubhouse, the value is built on the fact that everybody comes as an expert of your lived experience. No one can compare to each of us. We all bring value from the incredible life experience, that journey of life that we have walked first, before any of the certifications and qualifications and the professionalisms and the et cetera, et cetera. So that is what the community value is based on. That is the space that we thrive in, that we're really open to listening to different people's points of view, even if we may even think it's pie in the sky. I'm going to say not we, because I know we don't. We clearly don't think any of this is impossible, or we wouldn't be here. But maybe some of you listening might be rolling your eyes. I can feel it. It's okay. At the end of the day, once upon a time, a man said, he looked up at the moon, or maybe it was a woman, I'm not sure. A person looked up at the moon and said, I'm going to put someone up there one day. And I can bet you a whole bunch of people went, you're nuts, you're crazy, it's impossible, pie in the sky. And I'll tell you now, I don't know about the rest of you, I look at the moon in the full moon. And I think to myself, I still can't believe that we go up there. But guess what? It's not impossible, right? We do it. It's been done. And look at the progress that, I don't know, it's arguable, right? The progress that the human race has experienced. But I think my point is that the fact that we can see it, or I'm going to say the fact that you can see it, the fact that you can see any potentiality for any change means that you are that agent. You are the agent for that change. If you can see it, then actually you can consider it done. You're just in the journey. You're in the process. And that's what lights me up every time I get to share space with these three incredible, incredible human beings, Desiree, Carly, and Patricia. And I know we could talk more now. We're only just getting warmed up, by the way. So if you want to know more, learn more, listen in with us, contribute to these conversations, I am going to direct you to get on Clubhouse. Look for Being Curious and Fearless. Look for Desiree Kaur. Look for Carly. Carly, I always pronounce your surname wrong. Considine. Did I get that right? Thank you. Patricia Rivera. Melissa Indot, Andrew Tai. Look for us on Clubhouse. Give us a follow. Come into these conversations. Listen, lean in, learn. Go into the other clubs that these incredible women lead and moderate in as well. Okay, so that's going to be, that's my call to action for all of you. I have a couple of questions. I'm totally hyped up right now. Didn't need coffee for this. We've got some questions. We've got a comment from Monstra Victorious. This is inspirational. Well, Monstra Victorious, thank you for being here with us. You know what to do. Call to action. Samuel Peters, totally agree with you, Carly. And Julia Sharina, hi. Great panel session. I'm having my first baby girl. Congratulations, Julia. In a few months' time, and I'm really clueless on teaching her empowerment and independence. Any advice for new first-time mums? So I'm watching the time. I'm going to give each of us 30 seconds, if possible, to give Julia one tip on, she's really nervous and clueless about being a first-time mom and teaching empowerment and independence. So Carly, actually, I'd love to go to you first.
I think standing strong and don't allow people to tell you you're doing it wrong, because there's no two way of doing it. Everybody parents differently, and you're going to be amazing. So yeah, just have faith. And it, you know, nobody knows when you have babies. Everybody is like, but you do, you get there, and you do get a stage where you're a bit like emotions up and down. But I think that, yeah, be empowered, be a strong, capable woman, and you will go far.
Desiree, do you want to go next? Thank you, Carly.
Julia, I'm going to echo everything Carly said. And, you know, when the babies come out of us, there's no manual. But I always say your best guide is your mother's intuition. That's really strong. And when I say mother, I mean all mothers who adopt babies as well. You know, mother figures. We mothers have very strong intuitions. Follow that and you'll never go wrong. And, you know, the fact that you asked this question, I say your baby girl's really lucky. She's going to be independent and empowered. All the best, Julia.
Hi, Julia. Congratulations. I'll be praying for your safe and fruitful birth. From what I can say, based on my mother's raising me, it would be to communicate. I think that's what I really appreciate. People ask, is your mom a tiger mom? And no, she was a dragon lady. To say she was very strict, but, you know, deep down, she's jelly. And I think, and as much as she would be very stern with me in certain aspects, she would always communicate, I'm doing this because I yelled at you because, and she was authentic. When she was having a bad day, she would say so. And I think that's really built the rapport. She empowered me with the chance to mature into that way of thinking, empowered me with a chance to understand, oh, moms are not perfect. Moms have bad days. I can extend compassion and realness as well and do my best as a daughter. So congratulations in advance, and I'll be wishing your family well.
I think the other important thing is to understand that you can make mistakes. You can do things the wrong way. And it's just it's a good lesson to teach yourself and how to do it right. Nobody, you don't come with, like Desiree said, it doesn't come with a manual. But what I will say is to reach out to Facebook groups with other mums and ask questions. How do you do it? How do you do it? You don't necessarily have to do it that way, but it's going to give you ideas of how to do it.
I'm going to add one last
I've got really got to watch the time, Desiree. Okay, just be mindful.
Yes. Find your tribe, and if you don't find one, build your own. That's all I want.
Beautiful. Well, what is there left for me to say? Beautiful feedback. Julia, thank you for your curious question right there. So much value, and it comes from a place of love. In fact, there would be one thing that I would add. Continue to be fearlessly curious. That's what brought you to this webinar, for want of a better word, and to continue to ask the questions. And everything that the ladies here have shared about being open, about listening, about being present. And I'm going to add one more layer to this idea of being a parent, right? It's been mentioned already. There's no guidebook to being a parent. But guess what? There's no guidebook to being a human. There's no guidebook to be a human. So be the human first. And actually what I do is I really speak to the child in every adult. And so remember, at any point for everybody here, okay, Julia is a parent too, that I've worked with many parents, and parents often lose themselves because of this delicate new being that they're bringing through, that sense of responsibility. I'm sure I can only imagine. In fact, I can't even begin to imagine, right? It can be overwhelming. But don't forget to connect with you, as the others have mentioned too. Connect with you. You know best for that moment, and that self-compassion that Carly spoke to. I mean, a mistake is only a mistake if you keep doing it over and over again and over and over and over and over again. We learn, actually, success is as a series of failures. So think about that. Okay, I've got a couple of comments, and then I am going to get us in trouble, girls. And you know what I'm like with trouble. So Samuel Peter says, thank you for the insight, Patricia. And Dee Dee, yes, inclusiveness begins with an open mind and adjusted expectations. Dee Dee, I'm going to invite you to be curious. You know what? Don't adjust your expectations. Expectations, we all have them. I would invite you to see if you can not be attached to your expectations. The trust that you have an expectation, and when something shows up differently, not in a way, 9 times out of 10, not even 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, that result, that outcome is actually serving you. Maybe we just can't see it yet, because Carly talked about big picture. Sometimes we can't see the big picture. We've got to take one step at a time. And so I'm getting a message here now from Andrew, who's the founder of Rejuvenate. Oh my gosh, more messages. Okay, I won't get in trouble. Siobhan, who's speaking next, by the way, on the Rejuvenate. She's after us, so I definitely don't want us to get in trouble with Siobhan too. And she's also a moderator in the Being Curious and Fearless Club. Hi, Siobhan. She sent us a message. This is a helpful conversation. Thank you for sharing. And Julia has responded. Thank you so much for all the great answers and wishes. Definitely feeling more excited to raise my daughter, seeing all these amazing women right now. Well, Julia, do connect with any one of us should you feel called. I know that Carly, Desiree, and Patricia and myself would be happy to support you. See us as your community. And if you decide to get on Clubhouse, you know where to find us. So I'm guessing that we probably have to close up now. I'm going to stretch it before I get, because that's me. So I'm going to invite maybe in reverse order. Well, what's reverse order? Closing thoughts. We've got to keep it brief. Maybe a closing 1 or 2 statements if you can, ladies. And I'm going to start with you, Patricia. Over to you.
Melissa mentioned growth earlier, right? And how it's reflective. While we help someone else grow, we ourselves evolve in maturity as well. And I think after everything that we've discussed, I've come to a new definition of love. Love itself. Yeah, I went there because inclusivity is humanity, and humanity is primed to love. I think love is about teachability, how well we can impart an understanding to someone, and the ability to teach. So I got that in reverse order. Teachability is how well or how malleable we are to learning something new from someone. And our ability to teach, okay, is how we can share what we know without being imposing, without being disrespectful, you know? So I would say that that's love. That's what we're trying to do here, exercising our teachability and at the same time priming ourselves to be able to teach it to whoever else we might encounter. So thank you so much, everybody. It was such an enriching day.
Thank you, Patricia. Carly, would you like to go next?
I would say embrace diversity, whether it be LGBTQIA, whether it be race, whether it be neurological disorders or disabilities full stop. I say embrace difference and diversity and open your mind.
Thank you, Carly. And over to you, Desiree.
Wow, I love what Patricia said about love. For me, I would say in closing, community. Community is so important. Find a place where you feel you can belong and just be yourself. And, if you can't find one, build your own. I guarantee you there are so many people out there in the world just, ready to accept everyone just as they are. No questions asked. It's acceptance first, right? And there's so many of us. I'm gonna own it. So many of us out there. So my closing statement is: if you can't find your community, go and build one, because we can now. This is Desiree, and I'm complete.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, it's been such a privilege to share this space with you, Desiree, Carly, and Patricia. Andrew, thank you for the opportunity to hold this space, to create this conversation, Being Curious and Fearless Club on Clubhouse. My name is Melissa Indot. You want to stay for the next session for sure. You want to catch all the other sessions from all the other editions as well. My closing gift, I would say, is that to remember that the reality, the life that you live, the experience that you live, you are a sovereign being. You actually get to choose that. You get to choose your perspective. And the way that we change our reality, change our experience, is through diversity. It's knowing that we have the option. But what options are out there available to us unless we put ourselves out there and listen, lean in, learn, and love together. Thank you, everybody. This is Melissa, and I am complete.